Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we're working.
Cooking with hot grease, right?
Yes, sir. All right. Podcast episode 4 now. This is new guest. Introduce yourself.
New guest, Tajh, a.k.a. Taj Mahal. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
This is going to be a great podcast. A great subject to speak on.
Yes.
Amen.
I'm intrigued.
Jarvis, always here, never won't be. And of course,
Greg, you see, man.
one and only.
Yes. The one and only Grizzly Greg.
All right, I've got some drinks for y'all to try. I don't know if you've had this.
No, I haven't.
Sour Monkey.
Uh-uh.
There you go. I think they are. Yeah, I got you.
Dude's an animal. I'll wait on this. Oh. Send it. Full send.
With the teeth.
You still got the moonshine?
Yeah.
Ain't
I
gonna
can-
worry about
Worst case scenario, no, we get the maid to bring the moonshine down.
that. The maid.
Wow.
Not too bad.
It is 9.5%.
My tolerance is kind of low right now. I haven't drunk in 24 hours.
That's a long time. It is. It's pretty good. It tastes like sour candy. For the listeners out there, we're tasting Sour Monkey Sour Triple by Victory. Taste Victory.
So what's your beverage of choice then? Or are you just like the experiment?
Experiment. I've never had this.
No, that's nice though.
Pretty good.
It's
Not
not.
bad.
It's
I
not
can
too
drink
much
it.
of a beer.
Yeah.
It's not too much of IPA.
I am not a fan of IPAs.
Hell no.
I don't like the really hoppy ones.
I think that's what it is for
Yeah.
me.
Hops. And what else? Yeast.
I won't even act like I'm a beer connoisseur, but I prefer me some.
It's a
some
hint
Blue
of
Moon.
walnut.
I like some Blue Moon. Some Land Shark is good. I had this tequila type Corona. So it's made like Coronas, but they age it in tequila barrels. Now it's really good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We are also drinking some women drinks. We've got Corona Seltzer for our bitch bodies.
I just had half a bottle of blueberry Stella with my wife before I came over here.
Ooh.
So that's what I was drinking before I got here.
I got you.
Yeah.
So it's
Nice.
Proven fact that you're a liar. I haven't drank in
24
24 hours.
hours.
Did I say that? I meant
Holy
24
shit.
minutes.
I think you meant 24 minutes.
It's all right. It's right.
It was in between playing.
The way you said that, it
Cyberpunk.
sounded like some seconds, man.
All right.
really
So
was.
the topic of today's cast. Also, welcome to the Foxhole. First time guest, Mr. Tajh. The topic for today is what we do to keep ourselves sane. Our personal therapeutics, if you will, can be anything. Just like little routines you do, certain songs, or certain ways you just end the day. But why haven't you gone crazy? What are your secrets? And if you got an answer, you can hop on.
Okay. So we're speaking from the perspective of not going insane. I guess my take is, when I heard the subject, I think of insane or sane as just subjective, like as a whole. Because I think, you can never really go insane.
We can, to better help ourselves, we can define what we mean by insane, or at least
Yeah.
what I
It's
mean.
like-
Because obviously, we're not all going insane, if we don't have these, like, personal remedies to keep ourselves, if you will, sane. I would say what I mean by keeping ourselves sane is keeping ourselves out of a depressive state, just what keeps us going every day, what gives us our happiness or our drive. Just keep us from living a mundane lifestyle. Like your purposeful activities throughout the day. For myself, I'd say one of the biggest ones is the gym. Like, that's just something I've been keeping up, like, ever since I was about 14 or 15. The only time I have taken more than 4 days off is when they closed the gyms down for coronavirus.
That fucked me.
And anytime the Army took me away from
Gym.
society.
Yeah.
Yeah. which was more often than not. But other than that, at least 3 times a week, the gym has kept me, I would say, sane. Just like super helpful for mental health, more so than physical, I would say. Because, like, yeah, it's great for physical health, but, like, just working out, like, it gives you energy, it gives you mental focus, makes you less tired, and, like, everybody always looks at themselves in such negative light.
Yes.
But if you're constantly improving, your view on yourself is going to constantly improve as well. So by working out, you just continually improve your own idea, the own image you create of yourself in your mind. So just for like making sure people don't like destroy themselves, because people really do. They attack themselves on all their faults, and I think the gym really prevents that because you're always seeing yourself improve. Gives you a little confidence.
Kind of going off of that is like, you see a lot of people use fitness as to build sex appeal for everyone else, and they kind of base that a lot on like, oh, how do people perceive me? And it's crazy because I had this conversation with my wife like 2 nights ago, and she was like, oh, I just want to get in shape for you, and I'm just like, no. I was like, I literally tell her, I'm like, when I see myself getting out of shape, because I am out of shape right now, I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm fat, and I tell myself I'm that. I'm like, and I go to the gym and try to better myself. I'm like, I genuinely don't do it for you. I was like, I do it for myself. I'm like, there's nothing that you should be doing saying like, oh, I'm getting in shape for you, for your husband. I'm like, no, like, do it for yourself first. You'll feel better for yourself. Don't go to the gym. Don't try to work out, but like, oh, I'm trying to look better for you. I'm like, no, do it because you want to make yourself happy. Like,
The idea of taking care of yourself for someone else is interesting. Like, I think that's faulty in and of itself. Like, it's so easy to break down to like let everything get to you, and the fact that you're doing something like for yourself for someone else, like, it's kind of counterintuitive.
yeah, like there's nuances.
You should, if you want to do something for someone else, help them go to the gym.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It should be, what is it, a symbiotic like relationship. It's like, all right, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
Instead of like, all right, you're doing it for me. Like, don't make it a chore. Don't make me make.
If you're doing work for someone else, like you're putting in work for someone else rather than helping them put in work for themselves, you're working for them, not with them, and that's not a good relationship. You're kind of inadvertently making them your boss.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's like a spouse or someone, like, oh yeah, I'm putting in all this work for you. It's like, I don't know.
Don't do it
Who's
for
in
me.
charge
I
then?
feel like you can be inspired to put in work, but it should be for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like you're saying. I mean, what I think that means is you got to be in control of your own happiness. Like, too many people come together and think they're supposed to make each other happy.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like,
Yeah.
you got to be happy yourself, be able to go to the gym, make yourself happy, come together and share those happiness.
Yes.
I think
Share
the
that.
issue is because people are so sociable, doing things with other people has always been, at least for most people's like past, like in their memory, it's like, well, my greatest memories are when I do something with someone else. But like in terms of relationships, that's different. So
Especially you got 2 different spectrums. Like, I like picking up heavy shit and throwing shit down, and then in my mindset, it's like, you could work a little harder. So that will come off very brash and very not as polite as it should be. But that's just my mindset for myself. So it's like people can't walk in there and be like, you can't take that mindset.
what helps you push yourself? Because when you're doing anything and you're telling yourself like, oh, you can do this better or harder, like, do you push yourself? And if you do, like, what's that thing that pushes you? Like, is it someone else? Is it like someone you look up to, or like just an idea of yourself of like, this is where I want to be?
It's a challenge, man. I think that kind of bringing it from the military. I hate bringing up the military all the time. It's just challenging yourself. That's the biggest thing that I think works for me every single day. Is like, every day you should be improving yourself. So every day should be a challenge in its own right. So whether I'm going to gym and I'm like, okay, I can bench only 225 right now. Fast forward 2 months later, oh shit, I can almost bench 300 pounds. It's that whole point because I know it's a plateau that I know I can reach and get over. So there's always going to be an opportunity for me to be like, all right, let's continue doing it. Like, oh, you're failing right now? I'm gonna just do negatives. Like, everything's always progression. Everything's going to climb. Like, you just have to reevaluate it at some point or another to be like, I can get this. But I always have to remember that a lot of people go into these situations as beginners. They're learning it, and then it can be very discomforting to try to get someone to get where you're at right off the gate, right out the gate, because we've all been there at one point or another where we were the person who couldn't do anything. You're working out with somebody who's super fit, and you're just like, I'm trying to keep up with them, and I can't. And it only helps if you don't have that don't quit attitude to keep going. It's really rough because, like, I remember being there and working out with somebody who was a stud who literally was like, yeah, I do fitness competitions, and I'm just like,
I absolutely love it.
I was like,
that's what drives me.
You know what?
Is seeing anyone do anything better than me. My drive is that, like, just my nature is to be the best I can be. I'm extremely competitive. I think it's just growing up with an older brother who's, my older brother is 3 years older than me.
Yeah.
So obviously he's hitting peak points
of
boyhood before you.
Yeah.
So it's like I've always competed,
Yeah.
And anytime I can, just like being able to, it's just like I love that feeling of just like being better.
I like challenges, man.
And
I don't care about failures.
Yeah.
I've never
think
cared
what
about
it
failures.
is, man, kind of bringing it all together is you go into the gym for yourself, but you can be inspired by your significant other. You can be like, you can go to the gym. The idea of it is to better yourself. But say you want to stop, like you just said, you want to look good, you want to look better for your boy, for your son, for your daughter. Be able to jump on trampolines for your daughter. That could be the inspiration.
Oh yeah.
But do it for yourself.
Yes.
That's what will keep me going is my motivation, not the reason I'm doing it.
I like human potential. I think that 100% drives me because I go online and see Larry Wills and I'm just like, oh, he can shoulder press 450. I'm like, that's people's deadlifts. I'm like, it's humanly possible, so therefore I can possibly get there. Not saying
so he consumes a lot of steroids and things
very
like that.
True.
And I don't shame him for doing that. He wants to see what he's possible with what he can take.
Because everyone hits plateaus.
That's his life. I see the gym is a huge part of my life, but like there's just something about like taking something that's going to help me do better that I just can't do. Like I want to see what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Like the gym is sort of just my own personal like, what can I do better?
Yeah.
What can I do better? How can I make myself even greater than I was?
It's like
And I absolutely love just seeing myself improve. And just back to, I like being better than everyone else. There's just something about just being the best in the room that like gives you a sense of I can do anything. And I like that feeling.
That's on top of belief though, because there's always somebody better than you. But believing that you're the best in the room, just knowing nobody's going to outwork you, it's a good feeling.
You got a quote like Bruce Lee. He was like, I know I'm not number one, but I'm damn sure I'm not number two.
Right.
The thing about being the best, too, is not who's capable of the best, but who's going to put in the work to be the best. Because there's plenty of people I've always surrounded myself with who are capable of being better than me, but I've passed them because of the amount of work I put in.
Yeah.
And I think that if you put in enough work, you can be great at anything. It's just about having that drive.
So going back to what keeps us sane,
right,
I think something that can be great to understand is your habits. Your habits can keep you sane, if that makes any sense. Like, what do you do on, a daily basis? Are your habits good or are they bad?
Yeah.
Bad habits can make you go insane. Drinking too much, smoking too much,
saying like
arguing
I'll
too
clean
much,
that up later, or
procrastination too much.
Like, you know what, I'm not getting out of bed today. That's gonna be detrimental to your mental health. It's easy to be lazy. It's easy to just not do something. But the second you do, you tend to make it a habit. Once you accept something as like, it's okay if I just like slack right here, it's very easy to continue that habit. Like smoking. If you've never smoked before, it is so easy to not be addicted. But the very first time you smoke, that's when it starts, And if you never do something like, you never procrastinate, or you never wake up late, you never sleep in, then it's the same thing with like eating healthy too. Like if you cut out all unhealthy food, instead of having a cheat day, if you just never do it, it's actually easier. Because everybody who's always trying to put on diets and stuff, they're like, well, I got a cheat day because I have to. But what that does is it teases you. And then the rest of the week, you're just like, man, looking forward to this one day, so the rest of your week becomes crap. But if you just cut it
Becomes
out,
misery.
take it out of your life altogether, you find other things to please you, and then your life isn't encapsulated on this dessert that you're going to have on Sunday.
I would use that for harder work though. If I know I'm having a cheat day, I would make sure certain that every 6 days I'm eating, like I said, so that seventh day every week I can indulge. Cause fuck it, that's the way my mind works. I'm gonna have that.
I'm a big hater of cheat days.
Okay.
This is how I look at cheat days. Cheat day. If
I
you're
feel
gonna
like
have
it
your
gives
cheat
you a
days,
day to cheat, man.
Yeah.
Because eating healthy your whole life is cool, but how many times will you cheat instead of just having a cheat day?
True. I look at it like if you're gonna have a cheat day, those should be. I feel like that should be your hardest working workout day. In my mind, that's how I've always done it. Like
I like it
because
you got to earn it.
Yeah, like so it doesn't feel as a negative impact. So people like to do their cheat days on their days they don't work out. So that's typically when you're gonna be most sedentary. You're going to be laying around the house. You're going to try to do your recoveries. So you're going to be more likely to want to eat a little bit more, have a little more cheats. But I'm like, if I go to the gym that day, regardless if I cheat, I'm like, you know what? I already hit my calorie deficit. So even what I'm eating right now, I'm still within my calorie window.
I don't think cheat days are even honestly like that bad for you in
They're
terms of
not.
your health, but mentally, like cheat days, I think are bad for you.
That's because it's just that kind of comes back into like Western lifestyle. It's just the way our eating happens and like fast food and all that stuff.
You grow up, and whether you're poor or not, at some point you're just indulging yourself.
Yeah.
Like the food you eat, like the fast food or the desserts and stuff, like it's a part of everyone's lifestyle. It's like you can have a dessert right after dinner. It's like, why do you need dessert? Like I think glutton is a big poison for a lot of people. I myself included. I remember the healthiest I've been. It was I was living in the barracks, but I would buy like simple foods like chicken, spinach, like broccoli, just vegetables and stuff. Like that's all I would buy. So then I would just buy it in bulk.
Yeah.
If I was hungry, I would eat that. It's like if you don't buy anything else, it's like all right.
Yeah, that's true. I used to juice a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted a 2-week juice fast. I would juice in the morning for lunch, and then I'd have a solid meal for dinner, and I did that for 2 weeks. But it's not, I don't know if any other, for me, it wasn't sustainable, because I would catch myself still eating very clean for my third meal, but I was eating a lot, making up for that whole entire day of, like, not eating food. And, like, I lost weight, and I felt amazing, but I couldn't sustain it. Like, it wasn't practical for me at all.
Yeah.
Especially on, like, the high level of, like, how much stuff I was doing at that time. I was running 30 miles a week. I was lifting and doing hot keto classes, like, 3 times a week. So I was like, no, it just wasn't feasible. I couldn't hold it. I was like, I couldn't do it.
As men, you know what keeps us sane? How many times a day?
Yeah.
Poontang.
Beating your meat.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many times a day, man? You gotta at least masturbate, bro.
I
1
think
to
that
2 times minimum. Not every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I think it can be an addiction too.
Of course.
I think it can be.
Don't addictions keep you sane?
I disagree,
I definitely disagree after I thought about saying it.
but no, I think there's some validity to the statement because,
Yes, because
there
doing
are
it-
healthy addictions. It's addictions is can be attributed to healthy and unhealthy things because it's like your routines. And if your routine is unhealthy, that's when people say, oh, it's an addiction. If your routine is healthy, people are like, oh, that's a lifestyle.
We'd have to
Yeah.
classify
But,
that as good addictions. Keeps you sane.
Good addictions. I think that technology pulls us from people. Technology is a big factor to insanity. When I distance myself from technology, that's one of my favorite things about this podcast since I started it is that it's just a big excuse to get people together and just talk, because it's a real difficult task just talking with people nowadays because of technology. Like people text or call, but like getting in-person communication is it's harder and harder every day.
It's a dying art form.
This
honestly.
podcast helps that, and I think that's a big keep me sane thing, is just like actually communicating with people, getting together and just enjoying something together. The community of it. I think that there's less and less community, especially now with COVID too,
Even
locking everything
worse.
down.
Oh my god! Do you know it's curfews right now? Kicking
The,
back up, right?
Would you rather? Because if nothing locked down, the amount of deaths from COVID, sure, might increase, but the deaths in total would decrease if we unlocked everything, because the amount of suicides and alcoholic-related deaths and stuff have gone so high because of these lockdowns and how
Domestic
depressive the
violence.
world has become. Yeah, right? Everybody's locked inside. And so people tend to drink more and fight more, and nobody can do what they normally do. And so, like, sure, maybe you're saving some lives from COVID, but in the end, you're just causing more harm.
But you can't delay the inevitable either, because I mean, maybe people's life changed, they lost some things, so I can understand that. But either way, somebody who has it, you should be able to lose it and get it back. So maybe it's just who those people were from the start. Because people, people who have those stories come from a low place, get high, maybe lose it again, and get right back. I guess COVID's a world pandemic, and it was forced upon us, but I feel like those people were those people. You couldn't change it.
But it's
Locking down is their way of whatever makes sense. But phase 1 was no mask.
But you
So
can
why we
say-
wait for phase 2 to have masks?
You can say too with the COVID is it's an eye opener for a lot of people because some people have underlining tones of like depression that they didn't know they had, and their coping
Addictions,
mechanisms.
bro.
It's like their coping mechanisms were based on their habits. So like whether it's their day to day, spending time with their family, once a week going to their grandparents' house, so on and so forth. If you're taking that away from them, it's now making them realize certain things about themselves. They're like, okay, I did have a problem, but now I don't have my outlet.
Have y'all ever
anymore.
been in a depressed state where
Yes.
depression took over your life?
Yes.
Only once in my life when I was very young and I was
Only
over a
once,
girl.
when I was like 2 years ago. And why do you ask?
So I've been in a depressed state, right? But I think finding my way out of it, like, allowed me to see that the pointlessness of it,
Yeah.
and keeps me from ever going back to it, because in the end of, like, you
Life
keep
goes on.
yourself right, and you keep yourself in
Life
depression,
goes
and
the
you
fuck on.
choose whether or not your life is a good life or a bad life based on your outlook on everything that's happening. Like, shit stuff happens to everyone, and whether or not you let it get to you, like, nobody has a life where there's not shit stuff going on.
Facts.
But there's so many people that aren't depressed and are depressed with the same circumstances.
Because we choose our hard.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
hard's only your hard, man. Like, the bad shit you've been through might not be that hard for me, but it might be even harder than mine. But we ain't live each other's life. So,
Mhm.
shit, if I was rich and I lost and I couldn't pay a bill, that might be very hard.
Yeah.
When
You're
your
like,
hard's
hey,
to
I miss
make a
bills all the
fucking
time.
meal.
You know,
Yeah.
whatever.
You're like, all right,
Yeah, man.
too easy. You're
It's
like,
about
I can figure this
that.
out.
That leap
I've-
that keeps coming.
What
I've
keeps
always
you sane,
said,
I feel like money is something that can do both. It's really, really 50-50.
it's like funny you say that. There's a study that I can't even quote the study, but there's a study somewhere out there that I heard a while ago that the most happiest person is the person who makes roughly $70,000 a year.
Yeah. They did.
I think we talked about
Yeah,
this.
it was. They did a study based on annual salary,
Okay.
and yeah, 70 to 80,000 a year were by far happier than anyone who made less than that or more than that.
And I can agree with that because just think about so I look at it this way, like the average person, not everyone wants to be rich, not everybody wants to be famous. Most people just want to make enough money to take care of their families and do their leisure activities that they want to do.
That's
and
enough
comfort.
money to not have issues,
Yes.
but also not too much money. That money is you.
Yes.
It doesn't
it's
define
like,
you.
Greed.
if car breaks down, I have just enough money to take care of this unannounced expense off my paychecks. I have enough money saved up to do this. He was like, but you're not so worried that I'm just like, oh, I'm rich. What am I spending my money on? Like, what else do I need?
I think, so I did a lot of thinking on this in deployment, right? Because, so, I would say ages 17 to 18, that whole year, I was depressed, had suicidal thoughts and everything, and it was because I didn't know, like, I had no freedom of choice as much, because that's when I first enlisted in the Army at a really young age, and I had no, like, ability to do what I want anymore. I was forced into this lifestyle that sort of controlled me, and I let it get to me. However, 18 to 21, I was still in that lifestyle, but was exponentially happier. Part of that was having someone to be able to talk to. I think that's important. But I think the biggest thing was honestly just like my outlook on everything that was hard. And it was just like, just don't complain. It's so easy to complain. Like, I've never seen anyone just like not complain about something. But the second that I started like only focusing on the good, I think everyone's always like the grass is greener on the other side, or have these goals that control them, where it's like I need to work to this point before I'm happy. But you can always be happy, like especially like in the United States in today's day and age, like without how much that we have access to, like we got food and water, we got friends, we got housing, like we got jobs and stuff, and like even when we don't, we got someone to support us. Like it comes down to, are we going to complain or not? And if you don't complain, you just enjoy your life, you'd be able to find stuff to laugh at, like humor, comedy, like things to laugh at and like make you happy. Because comedy is a big thing. It's just like being able to laugh at things. I think that really like keeps people sane.
Being able to laugh at things, okay. I feel you on that. That's happiness. I feel like at the core, it's, you have to have that, like we were kind of talking about, we hit on it a little bit, but self-awareness. Like, going to the gym, like everybody said, but the core of that is like self-awareness. Are you aware of what's happening around you? Are you aware about, your mental state? Like, where are you? Do you even know? Yeah. Some people don't know what they want. You don't write down goals, nothing like that. So self-awareness, having goals, responsibilities, like knowing the awareness, being fully aware and not content, but
I think that
contempt, competent. That's the word.
I think life's too easy. I think that that's what's causing a lot of problems. Is life is so easy that when issues arise, it destroys people. One of my favorite things about the military is that sometimes you have no choice but to just suck it up and endure some shit. Think about it though. Like, say basic training, right? Your very first taste of shit. And the length of time you're there. You have no choice but to endure it the entire time. How much better was life when you finished it though? Like, little things, you're like, that's what y'all are complaining about? That's it? Life was so fucking hard. That is the easiest thing ever. Yes. Y'all don't realize how good life is. Y'all get to sit down. Because you don't sit down in basic, You're standing up the whole time with body armor and helmet for 14 weeks straight. And it's just like the no communication to the outside world, no media, nothing. Just shit on for 14 weeks. Life was so good after that. Mm-hmm. A simple, nice meal. Seeing a woman, it's like, oh, those still exist? Like, damn.
Being able to run by a woman, you're like, I know what pheromones smell like. Yeah. Specifically, like, that's a woman.
I couldn't sleep in a soft bed. It was too nice. I was like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. I had to sleep on the floor for a couple weeks after. It was crazy.
I've been to schools, and I remember being able to squatting down for 14 hours straight, fucking having.
Did you go to Latvia with us?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I've had my.
You went to JRTC though.
Huh?
JRTC.
I've never been to JRTC in my whole 7 years.
Damn. You went to NTC though?
Nope.
Fuck.
No, but so
what have you been doing?
so I did NIE.
Teach me the secrets.
so I was
okay, NIE.
So NIEs were basically those things.
Basically, yeah.
So they were so we did those for 6 to 8 weeks at a stretch. So being able for them to, I've had so much stuff taken away from me in my military career, access to no phones, like I had
such a nice feeling about like anytime you did something shitty, like I almost started to enjoy it. Like when life was horrible in the military, where they're like, bad. Man, I think I could die, and they're still pushing me, and I'm like, you know what? I need this because this is just going to make life better. And then I
Waking up
started
in the
to
morning.
I started to enjoy when life was horrible
Yeah,
because it made the rest of life so much better.
I will say this. One of my fondest memories, and it's not really even a fond memory, it's just a fond experience that stays with me throughout my military career, is I remember it was at NIE when I was still at Bliss, and I was sleeping, it wasn't even my time to pull guard. I was sleeping, had my sleeping bag on the side of a sand dune, and I was asleep. Most comfortable sleep I've ever had in my life. On sand, like soft sand, sliding down the hill. I woke up 6 feet
20
down the hill.
degrees.
Like 20 degrees wrapped in my, like, I don't know what it is, there's something about that. Like, to me, those are things I can't trade. But those are the hards.
It's because life was so hard that something like sleep was just so amazing.
I was like, oh my God.
If you're feeling like life is shit, if you're feeling like, hey, this is just way too hard, instead of complaining, go do something harder, and then see how hard it is, right?
Yeah.
Endure
I stepped in
something
the
more
shower
difficult.
the other day to get under hot water. I was pissed off about something, like you said earlier, frustration. Like, not depressed, but just frustration in general. What the fuck are you stressed for? And I just said, thank you for hot water, bro.
Amen.
I thought about how many people don't have hot water.
Yes.
Like, the things around you not making that great life for nothing. Like, you're living
that's
in
the
vain.
opposite of complaining, and that's what people need to do more often, is
Be
appreciate.
grateful, man.
Right? When you enjoy hot
Being
water,
grateful keeps you sane.
when you have a good
Yes.
meal, when you have a good sleep, when you get in bed, you're like, dang,
Bro,
this bed is nice. Thank you for this bed.
What do you think about when you
Whether
come out
you're
the
thanking
field?
God or yourself or whoever, be thankful. And then, like, speak it.
Yes.
Just as you speak, because everybody always loves to complain. You know, oh, hey, Shaniqua, guess what Michael just did to me? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Call Shaniqua this time and be like, my bed is just so comfy.
My bed is just so comfy.
I love it.
Misery loves company. People love drama. People live in drama.
I hate
love
it.
They love it. People love drama TV. I'm like, I don't understand how people's like, I hate drama, but you love drama TV. Like,
You know,
you're just watching somebody else's drama because you like that entertainment. It's
my
entertainment for
favorite
you.
form of communication is when people talk about either A, something that was funny, or B, like, some crazy shit. Like, hear about this, or like, you should do this. Like, some challenge type stuff.
Bro,
like, this is
so-
a workout I've been doing. Like,
So what movies
like
do you
working
like?
with people.
So
you know
I
what I
think-
mean?
Action and adventure?
Man, I don't watch movies
I like
anymore.
thrillers.
But my favorite movie is Kingdom of Heaven.
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting's great.
Favorite movie.
Movies that, like,
You Got Served. It's my favorite movie.
Inception, man. That's what Inception's in my list too.
I
love
like movies that, like,
I like
show
mind
the
bending.
main character
Mhm.
having to go through some shit, but like some sort of inspiration. Like, whether he dies at the end or not, he inspires everyone else. Like,
Did you
just
used to
some like
watch-
inspirational type.
Have you ever
movies.
seen
Pursuit of
Survivor?
Happiness.
Yeah.
That's a good movie too.
Have you seen
Ooh.
Survivor with Daniel Radcliffe?
No.
You would enjoy that. It's based off a true story. He gets
The Survivor was fucking amazing.
Yes, he did an amazing job. Basically, loosely based true story. Dude gets separated from his buddies in a adventure in the Amazon, and he literally is dragging himself from death, just trying to get out this jungle, trying to find some people. Like, literally almost dying in there. So, I don't want to give too much, but great movie. Great movie.
I was just thinking, because that's what I do instead of listening, and it's a big issue I have with my marriage. Is she'll be talking, but I'll be thinking about something else.
Oh, that'd be some shit.
Not because I'm not wanting to listen, but because like I can't stop thinking. I don't know why. I can't.
They say men have selective hearing, and it's true. They've done studies on it. We don't like to multitask. And
100%.
specifically-
Multitasking is
No,
impossible.
so specifically, so they were saying that men don't like to multitask in the sense of we like to do the task. So if we're doing a task and you come to us and ask us something while we're doing a task, we don't really care about what you're saying. We want to finish our task. Once we finish our task, then we can give you our attention. So don't
Couldn't
ask me
agree
to take
more.
out the trash,
Yeah.
don't tell me to clean. Like, even if it's a little simple mundane shit, we don't want to hear it. Like, not saying we don't want to, but we want to finish what we're doing, what we're
we
focused
can't.
on
We
first.
can't hear it.
Yeah.
It's a science of our brain. You hear that?
Yeah, so I got selective hearing.
All right. So
For me,
I am so happy to be out of the army because I couldn't be me as much. There's so much freedom taken away from you, but one thing I need to keep up because now that I'm out, everything's on me.
Mhm.
Because they force you to take care of yourself to a certain extent,
Mhm.
force you to work out, wake up in the morning, stay on schedule, be productive, keep that drive, continually push. Now it's all on me. And so one of the things I need to keep up, which I haven't been, is going through some hard stuff, like pushing myself, like just I used to do it back in the day. It was pretty fun. You know what bushcraft is? Just like
I think.
survival sort of
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
It's like
okay,
you go
yeah.
into the woods, but you only bring like a few items, and you see how you fare.
Yeah.
You don't eat that much and stuff. Like
Naked and afraid type shit.
Yeah.
I keep my clothes. Ain't no gay shit.
Maybe you should try to go out there naked one
No
time.
offense to my gay listeners. I ain't got gay listeners, but sorry,
don't know.
sorry, Jim. I don't know. No, I just man, like I have been enjoying life afterwards.
I am.
But if you ever stop enjoying life, push yourself a little bit.
Bringing up that, we're kind of enjoying life, and it's crazy because I talk patient transporter, push around sick people, transfer them to beds all day long. It's crazy when I have conversations with patients in the hospital because they always spark a conversation like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, have you working here long?" I'm like, "Nah, I've been here for going on 3 months. I just recently got out the military." Age-old question is like, why did you get out? Let's rewind this back 10 years. I had a good roommate of mine he used to be in special operations. I met him when I was working at Fry's Drugs and Foods, the grocery store. I think I was a courtesy clerk at the time, like nutrition manager. And he was telling me about his experience in the military. So that's kind of what drove me to go to the military. It also drove me to, at that time, being very young, I was chasing his shadow of being special operations. So that's what drove me to go to the Q course and go to selection, because I had a mental picture of him that was so high that I'm chasing you. And it was great because I respected him on so many levels, like intellectually, just the knowledge he had and so on and so forth. He told me, he's like, when I was going in, he was like, the day you stop enjoying what you're doing, get out. And I was like, okay. And I always said that, and I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm going to do 20 years, I'm going to be SF, I'm going to be happy. I'm like, fast forward to me, in the 82nd, and I'm sitting there, and I'm miserable. I hate that place. It was like, I guess you could say, I don't know if it was a form of depression or just me expressing my hate for that place, in a sense, because I remember when my dad passed away, and I remember telling Flood, hey, all my gear's in my locker. I was like, if it needs to be laid out, can you lay it out for me? He was like, yeah, cool, man, because I was leaving to go see my dad. And I'm dropping my gear off, and I'm driving down All American, and I'm not even near 3rd Brigade yet. And I'm getting angry. I'm getting pissed off. My blood is boiling. I walk on this compound, I walk in the cough, and I'm just like, man, fuck this place. And I'm just going in, and I'm like, no place should make me feel like
I
feel
can
that.
attest to that feeling.
I'm like, no place.
Judge us if you want to, but almost everybody that was in that job, if you were in your car on your break and stuff, if you didn't fucking start screaming and just punching your freaking glove box or something, and just literally you want to strangle someone, and you take that aggression out right there because you have to. That's how it made us feel.
Yeah,
and only you can control your life. And so if you don't enjoy something, and you have the ability to stop doing it, why not just stop doing it?
Yeah. And
sometimes
my
things
breaking
are just
point.
not for people.
That was my breaking point when I was like, you know what? I'm not enjoying what I'm doing anymore. I came into the Army, and even before I was even trying to go in the Q course, I enjoyed being infantry. I enjoyed going out on runs. I enjoyed
the job itself was great.
Yes.
If there were no bullshit people there, that job could be great.
Politics.
Yes.
A lot of politics.
The job itself, amazing.
I
love
job.
Shooting stuff. I love working out. I love pushing myself.
Yeah.
I like all of
it.
it.
Birds, getting in
Jumping out of planes was
Bradleys,
even fun. Even the combat jumps where I busted my brain open. All of them. It was great. It's just those freaking retards that are in charge of you, because the Army has this big issue where no matter what, they promote you. If you're there long enough, they promote you. So anybody that's been there longer than you is in charge of you. Whether they've got 3 brain cells or 16 baby mamas, like they're in charge of you. Doesn't matter what type of decisions they've made.
I think that,
Which sucks because it forced me to leave.
Yeah, and I hate getting on for the reasons I did. I don't really hate it, but I'm happy I'm out. But I still would love to be able to change some stuff back there. But I will say something that helped me like get through that, kind of going back on like how it keeps us sane, is I'm a big video game guy, anime nerd, everything under the sun. Those are kind of like my outlets, like
All right,
playing video games.
question for everyone. Yeah. What's the hardest your life has ever been? Like, what was the lowest your life has ever been, and what made it so hard? Like,
for me, I think, I don't know, like, growing up in South Central Los Angeles, there's a lot of shit that's happened in my life that I'm just like, my sister's been shot with a shotgun. My mom's had guns pointed in her face. My mom actually took 2 bullets in her leg from me when I was 4 years old. And I'm like, I don't even consider those hard moments in my life because I'm just like, I was young. I've seen a lot of stuff. I think the hardest thing for me was 100% when I fell out the Q course. For specifically because I put that on a pedestal so high for myself, and I had such a high expectation. This was the first time like I've ever failed anything in my life, so it was an eye opener. That one, I was like, okay, let's do the right thing, like do the military thing and bounce back. But then at the same time, it made me realize like, okay, I've been very athletic throughout my whole entire life, and I've been riding my athleticism throughout a lot of my ventures, whether it was like basketball, baseball, so on and so forth, that even when I was putting in hard work, that I wasn't directed in the right stuff, directed in the right areas. So like, I was a great runner at that time, so I'm like crushing running, but I was still slacking off on like push-ups, still slacking off on sit-ups. And when my running went away, that hit me very hard. That was like, yeah, that was my bread and butter. Like, just thinking, like, it made me think and look back, like, damn, like, when I have to tell, like, my old squad leaders, like, hey, why I failed out, I'm like, hey, I failed for running, and they all said the same thing, like, but you're a really good runner. And so that was kind of, like, the hardest moment for me, like, going through that, like, stressful 2 years of my life, like, putting up through all that bullshit, to turn around and just be like, you're officially a failure. Like, you are a failure.
I think the hardest point in my life was really trying to make something that wasn't something that it was. Like, something that wasn't real, making it seem real to myself. Of course, it's deeper than that, but the point of it all is it was something that I knew was to be fake, or I wanted this to be some certain way, and because it didn't turn out that way, I was depressed because I put myself there. Yeah. It was really just trying to make somebody's red flags yellow.
Yeah.
Or make the red flags green. Like, no, that's not nothing. And just letting myself just stay in a constant state of doubt. Doubt made me be depressed. Because I started to doubt everything I was doing, started to doubt myself. Then I fell into a state of doubt that makes any sense. And doubting your every decision, or you're played a video game instead of going run.
Yeah.
You're just doubt that, damn, I can't even run anymore. I feel like that's a state of doubt.
Yeah.
Because why would you not make that other decision? You just doubt yourself. Because when you're working out every day, making the decisions to eat good every day, like, you're not doubting yourself. You're either inspired or some other shit, but it was that state of doubt, man. That was the lowest point of my life because of my environment. So I think that was the lowest my life was, just a bad environment. It wasn't even me. It was the bad environment. The drugs around me, drinking around me, pills around me.
Yeah.
Made me start making decisions I never would have made. So, environment, bro.
I think that for myself, like, honestly, like, there was no hardest point in my life. Like, I've had to, like, go through some hard times and stuff. But like, it's a combination of things that have sort of been like getting me through everything, that have like helped me see that no matter how hard my life gets, like as long as I'm living, life isn't hard. Because life in and of itself is a decently difficult task. And so average life, if you define it as hard, like, but that's the average, it's like, okay, so is hard like harder than average or what? And if average life is already what everybody thinks is hard, like, it's not really that hard. It's just the fact that everybody lets it get to them. Like, I've gone through difficult times, but man, I really appreciate the change of mindset that I had on deployment, because just how much time you get to like sit there and talk. You really like learn who you are. You learn how you became who you are. Because at least when we were at Camp Dyer, we were freaking 6 hours a day every day for months. Would just talk, because we were on tower guard 6 hours a day every day for 3 months, and with one other person, and you would just talk. And man, I really like reflected. I mean, I think it was really, really effective to just talk about my entire life, start to finish, where I got and how I got here. Like, if you've never like looked at your past before, like, I would recommend like just finding someone who's good at listening and just talk about your life, like where you came from, how you got to where you are, all the things you've had to go through. Like, the amount of therapeutic effects that had was just crazy. Like you don't need to go find like some $1,000 therapist. Like, just get a good friend and just talk. And like, if they're not willing to listen, I'm willing to bet they're not a good friend. But yeah, being able to just talk and like learn about myself, because like you really don't know about yourself till you start talking about yourself, and you're just like, oh shit, puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
I
but
feel
like
you don't have to talk to a friend for that, man.
you really don't. But someone, just anybody who's willing to listen.
Some friends will listen to respond. So I get like having the right friend, but if you ever did that shit in the mirror. Like,
speaking, yeah, literally, as long as you like, it's just like reviewing it. It's like, okay, I've lived my life, but have I looked into it? Have I understood it? And after going through and talking about my life in extents, like, I realized, like, you know, no matter how hard life is, like, it keeps on going. And no matter how hard it got, like, literally no matter how hard it got, it kept going.
Yeah.
And 100%. If it didn't, then life is over, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's how
so your outlook, it can control your day-to-day life.
I think so I'm a very optimistic person. I'm a very glass half full type of dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really let anything get to me. It takes a lot to push my buttons, and you've seen that. It takes a lot.
Sorry, Melton, if you're listening to this, watch out.
And so it's crazy because, like, again, like, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, a lot of gang violence, so on and so forth. People meet me, hear how I talk, how I carry myself, how I speak. Typically don't think that I was grow up in South Central Los Angeles. My best friend, Seville, you can talk to him and speak to him, and you'll be like, you are from L.A., like 100%. And he'll say the same thing. He's a very intellectual dude, but he talks very street. And even my little cousin even told me, he was like, hey, you've lost all your slang. And I was like, yeah, just like different circumstances, different environments. And it's kind of crazy because you can take my environments and everything I learn. I've always been the type of person who observes very well. I take in everything. I question everything. I think about everything. Even if I'm not very vocal about it, I am constantly processing information that I receive, because kind of like what they told me in the Q course, he was like, situational awareness at all times. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, understand who's in the room, understand who you're talking to, understand what you're doing in that situation at that time. And I'm like, anytime I'm with someone, or if I have to deal with a manager, like, I know what makes you tick. I know what you want to see when I'm in your face. You want my shirt tucked in while I'm in the room with you? My shirt's tucked in. I walk out the room, I'm not going to see you for the next hour. I'm untucking my shirt. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, that also plays into my mental mindset of, hey, like, I have seen lots of racial injustice growing up in my childhood. I have, like, my mom, like I said earlier, like, my mom did take 2 bullets in the leg from a drive-by saving me, and I still don't consider those hard things because I'm like, because every day I'm like, it could be worse. I'm like, even when I was in Afghanistan, oh, they shot mortar rounds at me. Like, I'm in a fucking tower. Like, now I'm not in Afghanistan. Someone's still getting fucking shot at. It could be worse. Like my mental mindset is that every day the new challenge.
Yeah,
Every day
if you think your life is hard, like, you can change that by changing your outlook. Like,
Yeah.
100%. Like, if you are not in physical pain constantly, like, and there are some people who are, and like I understand, like, that's gonna be difficult.
Even then,
But for those of you who aren't in constant physical pain, and you're talking about how hard your life is and stuff, like, it's really not. Like, you're living. Like, stop moping around. You know.
I've done some of the most physically demanding shit that I can ever. Let's see your school. See your school is one of those things that you can ask anybody. They would say, "Great school, loved everything about it, learned a lot of good shit. I would never want to repeat it again." 100% true. I was like, the simple fact that I'm like, people complete this every day. I'm like, so it's not impossible. It's not a challenge that can't be beat, but I'm like, but it's something I don't want to experience ever again. He was like, but it also says, it's like, hey, like, if I'm put in that situation in real world, real life, that I can do it, I've done it. And that's always been a factor in my life. Like, even now, like, when I'm out of shape and I experience certain things, I'm like, I've done it before, why can't I do it again? I'm like, whatever mindset, like, I've already built that calluses for those situations that if I have to experience those, I know how to cope with those.
I'm so grateful for the hard times that I've had in my life.
I am.
Like, it's a weird thing to say, but, like, that, the hard times, one, just, like, build you up. Because if you made it through that hard time, either A, you learn from the hard time, or B, you've improved yourself from the hard time. And, like, if you're living life without hard times, like, man, you're going to be fragile. And
I think
I
a
don't
lot of
want to
people
be
are
fragile
right now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are mentally, they're just mentally weak. It's bad because I try to be very sympathetic towards people in the sense of, because, like, the military does put a lot of calluses on you towards a lot of situations. So it's very hard for me to step back. Like, it was crazy because my sister-in-law, she goes through depression here and there, and it's very hard for me to understand that sometimes, because the only time I've ever had
seeing someone else go through something that you know how to work through
Yes.
is difficult when you tell
Very
them
hard.
and they don't listen. Yeah.
Yes, and I see that, and I'm just like, well, just do this, this, and this, and they're like, no, it's not that easy, and in my brain, I'm like, yes, it is that easy, but I think one of my coping mechanisms that I learned very young, because the only real time I could think of depression was when I was dating / wanting to get in with this chick, and I remember not being with her, and we had such a, like, in-depth relationship. I remember not being with her, and I remember just being super depressed. And how I got out of that hole was, I remember going to work, and I'm like, if there's one good thing that happens today, one good thing, stick onto the happiness. And I used to do that. I'm like, whatever made you smile, whatever made you laugh, that one good thing is better than all those negative things. And I was like, oh shit, I talked to this person, I had a good joke, and if I start feeling down, I'll just think about that. I was like, how did I feel in that moment? And that, like, that one happy moment, like, build on itself throughout the time. The next thing I know, I'm like, okay, I don't really even care anymore. Like,
Yeah, I
it's not
think
a big deal.
that after going through some, like, really fucking hard times, the great thing is that, like, I don't care what life hits me with. It's, like, no big deal. Which sucks to some point when you're like, so, for example, like, I'm married, right? My wife is going to think that, like, certain things are a big deal. And when I don't think it's a big deal, it causes some strife, because it's like, well, how do you not see this as a big deal? And it's vice versa. It's like, well, how do you see this as a big deal? It's literally, like, the minorest of things. But
Yeah.
I have to understand that she's got a different viewpoint of life. Like, different things mean different things.
I think what helps keeps me sane, me personally, smoking some reefer, man.
I wish.
I
But I think, speaking past tense, I will agree with you that too. Not current tense, but past tense. Yes, I can agree with you.
I think that, like, even if you don't do drugs, like you can get to that point of feeling like it's just drugs is a.
Hey! How Cat Williams tell him, if it's not chemically chopped up or done anything, it's not a drug. It came from Earth.
Think about it. Do you eat eggs? What's the difference in smoking weed?
It came from Earth. I don't have to do anything else.
Do you smoke a cigarette? That's another plant that was just growing, and that tobacco is giving you a feeling in your brain. And okay, anyway,
but there's not necessarily such bad things that you'll find in cigarettes and reefer.
Yes, the
everything in moderation, I always say.
I like the idea. So the only reason that weed was illegal is because hemp was a direct competitor to cotton back when slaves were producing the amount of cotton that they were. It was creating this economic growth that they've seen never before. So the South, because of how much slaves they had back in the day, because of how much cotton they were producing, had the highest or strongest economy of any place in the entire world. And hemp was a direct competitor to cotton. And so, due to that fact, they outlawed it. That's the only reason why weed is legal nowadays. Not because it's a drug that alters your way of thinking. Because alcohol, tobacco, like all kinds of stuff does the exact same type of thing. It's the fact that it fought against their precious slavery. So they're like, we can't have that.
No, Mr. Kool-Aid Man.
But I mean, we're seeing it become legalized in most of the country. It only took time. They're like, oh, well, I guess we can't get our slaves back. I guess we can start fucking smoking it up. Life's easy. No matter who you are. Stop complaining. Start enjoying your life. There's so much you can enjoy. And if you're just focusing on the shit part of your life, like, why are you wasting your life away? It's very short.
It is.
80 years is like max average for most people, and that's not a long time.
They were saying,
you know, if you believe in like reincarnation or God or going to heaven or anything, like, yeah, it's eternity. But life is a little bit different, and it's kind of short.
This avatar can only last for so long.
If you're spending your whole life complaining about all the hard things, what are you doing?
Check it out. So someone told me basically, he's like, look at it this way. He was like, people in the military, I won't even say military, people in life take their careers and they live and die by them. They were like, hey, I have 20 years for this, 30 years for this, blah, 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 so on and so forth. He was like, fast forward 50 years.
Gotta urinate.
Fast forward 50 years, he was like, your career becomes basically a snapshot. He was like, you've probably spent more time out of this career than you did in this career. Why are you stressing it and making it such a detrimental part of your life or a vital point of your characteristics of your personality to be like, okay, like, I've been in the Army for 7 years. 7 years from now, it's like, hey, that time is the time of an infant. He was like, that time will be gone. He was like, I'm going to be doing something else in the long term. He was like, so why are you trying to dictate your happiness off a past event or trying to relive these moments when you're like, hey, that time is gone, let it go. Continue developing yourself, take those experiences, use it as a healthy resource for yourself to be able to like, okay, what did I go through, and being able to be like, all right, did this affect positively or negatively to my mindset? But people get wrapped around that, so this whole thing of like, you have to think like time is such, well, I won't say a linear thing, but time flows in all directions, and at any point in time, this could be something in the past. Like, my marriage is only 4 years long. I literally tell people like, hey, my marriage is still in an infant stage. Like, I don't know everything about my wife. Like, as much as we do know about each other, like, it's still in an infant stage. I met some dude who was literally, he's like, I've been married to my wife for 70 years. I'm like, y'all have been together longer than you've been apart. And people forget that, like, those are things that are like, hey, like, you have to look at your life, like, you're going to have larger scale events in your life that's going to even out-trump those, like, little events that you were worried about. Like, those are, like, little grains in the sand that you're so worried about, like, oh, my God, this is such a detrimental part, like, I went through this, and this, like, that is a grain in this giant beach of your life.
The amount of people there are, right? There's billions of people on the earth, and everybody has freedom of choice. Obviously, sometimes they conflict. And everybody asks all the time, like, oh, why do we have to deal with all these hard times, right? And instead of asking why, ask yourself, what are you going to do with this hard time? How are you going to make this who you are? And everybody is going to, at some point, deal with something similar. Why not use that hard time as a learning curve? Allow that hard time to be an example for those around you, because people say people who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with just these often occurring hard times. Something hard happens, right? Instead of complaining about it, help all your friends and family. Hey, I went through this hard time. Like, I noticed you're going through this hard time, or you might, or anything. Just explain to them, hey, this is how I got through it. Hey, this is what I did. Help them, Use that hard time for anybody else who's going through a similar type of experience. Be the person for them, like the light at the end of the tunnel. So when they go through that same hard time, you're like, hey, this is what I did. And instead of complaining about it, you are now helping someone else who's going through that same difficult time.
Like the age-old saying, it's like you're probably not the first person who experienced it.
Yeah, life is easy, but doing the things that makes it easy is hard.
Oh, yeah.
So really what can keep you sane and keep you happy forever is going to be some sort of belief.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you got to kind of emphasize that on a pedestal. Like, your belief has to be 100% there.
Believe in something or fall for anything.
To be able to be sane, you got to believe that you're not fucking insane. You got to believe that hard time is a hard, If you sit here, like you said, and you just focus on the bad things, it's just, you're never going to get to where you want to be, man. Because bad is only bad if you make it bad.
Yep. All right, so lighter tone, right?
Yes.
So we got a little bit of time left. And so let's see. What are some memories of yours? I don't know if you have any, but like maybe early childhood, you have some memories, right? Mm-hmm. So as a kid, your idea of the world is different because you've experienced way less. So you don't know what's real, what's not.
Oof.
So thinking back, you probably have some sort of a crazy memory in which you're like, I don't know if that actually happened or not. I don't know, because it was so crazy as a kid, you're like, okay, I probably just exaggerated my thought. But in your memory, it's true. For example, I'll give you one of my own, right? So as a child, I remember I lived in Washington State at the time, and I remember seeing this bird. It had to have a wingspan of at least like 24 feet, which isn't any living bird, But as a kid, I remember it happening, and as you grow older, you're like, that never happened. Obviously, I must have just been seeing stuff. But as a kid, I'm like, that happened.
No.
But then you convince yourself as you grow older, it's like, no, this is the norm. That can't be right. Mm-hmm. So you start to literally tell yourself you're wrong because of what fits inside the norm. We're afraid to think something that might not be real. But I remember I was 8 years old or something, and I seen this fucking bird that was like dragon sized in Washington State.
Seeing Santa Claus.
Oh yeah?
And as I grew older, I had to prove to myself that there was Santa Claus, maybe. But I don't know if your listeners are kids. I don't want to spoil the party, but Santa Claus is, that crazy thing to me, man. Not to spoil any parties, but I swear I saw Santa. Because I was a kid that wanted to lay out the milk and cookies. Mm. And, man, that's crazy how I can think back and remember me actually thinking that, the work they put in.
Another time in Washington State, I remember I was probably 10, and I was looking in the woods, and I seen a pair of red glowing eyes. Scared the crap out of me. But as a kid, it scared me less than it probably would scare me now. Because as a kid, your idea of the possibility is like so expansive. It's like, I don't really know all that
you're trying to
there
rationalize
is.
Everything.
Right.
Your little child.
As a child, it's like, oh man, that's crazy. But I mean, that's just things that happen. As an adult, it's like, that doesn't happen. That's fucking gonna kill me. That the fact that I just seen that. But since I saw it as a kid, as I grow older, it's like, I probably just seen this, convinced myself it was this, but it was probably this. You know, you're trying to rationalize all these ideas that you had a while ago.
You get away from the live stream, man.
I think it's interesting.
The spiritual connection disconnects.
I think because people say kids are more in tune with the spiritual world. Religious people say that kids are more apt to see angels or demons and things like that because the amount of faith they have, the amount of sensitivity they have, so they're more able to see all these supernatural things in the world. Whereas adults, they
rationalize everything.
They rationalize everything, and they're scared to think like that. So they really don't. And I think you do have some sort of control of your own brain, and your brain controls so much of your body and the way you think. And that when you force yourself to just fit within this narrative, you prevent yourself from being so sensitive to maybe spiritual things. And
you hear bumps in the night, you be like, all right, what? Like, let me run through the list of things that I know could be. Could it be my dog running around? Is it a chinchilla cage? Are those mortar rounds that are being fired on Fort Bragg? Or is it like you literally go down and you be like, that's what it is, and then you just be like, all right, I'm running with that, and you're like, it's cool. For me, I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have anything. Like I probably do, but I probably just like blanked it out.
I think being able to detach yourself from the outcome is something really important. Detach your feelings from the outcome, no matter what it is.
Straight analytical.
Like, maybe not based off science, but going back to belief, like simply detaching your feelings. Like, you know, I have business on the side, but it involves money and trading money and. Yeah. Being able to detach your feelings from what's happening and see it clear is one of the main things that you can do to always kind of not be negatively affected or go insane because you're trying to prove to yourself why it should happen, why it shouldn't. You just have to detach your feelings from it.
I'm at a point in my life, and this is probably like the second wave of my point in my life where I'm very abstract with the way I think. And I say that with the sense of I'm reading the Emerald Tablets. Have you ever read that? Have you read those? The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. I am getting more conscious again with paying attention to my dreams, trying to manipulate my dreams.
Dreams are weird.
Yeah. So I'm constantly. I have this mindset of if we've thought of it or someone's thought of it, it's probably happened. Even coming down to parallel worlds, reality, so on and so forth, because I think of, i.e., Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, how in depth these worlds are, that I'm like, what if this person who wrote the books, or Harry Potter, I'm like, what if he's just seeing behind the veil into another world? Like, how is he knowing political structures, like, for this world? And I'm like, yeah, he's probably basing it on this world.
Speaking of, one of my favorite shows to watch, probably different than most other people's reasons for loving this show, is Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. But like, if you look at like how the mob compared to the political like elite, kings and everything like that work, I think it is such a good representation of like today's day and age. Mm-hmm. Just like the mob mentality versus like the authoritative figures.
Yeah.
And the mob, I think, is such a great representation of just general public. People think the way everyone else thinks. It's like nobody really cares like about like morality. It's like, yeah, let's ruin this person's life because he's horrible and everybody. Yeah, right.
Trends of licking fucking ice cream in Walmart. Trends of like that, like people fall into something that has no
Everyone
moral
got to do
value.
A fucking challenge.
Right, it's a challenge, and they feel. I don't know what the feelings is called, but that precisely right there is insane.
If I had to go on a scientific level, it's like they're getting their level of endorphins from it. They're just getting their dopamines are kicking in. Like, yo, I got fucking 50,000 likes. I'm like, bro, I don't even fucking care.
In Game of Thrones, they're worshiping freaking the queen at one point, and then like a few moments later, they're like wanting to freaking stone her in the streets because the
Mob
idea
mentality.
of her changed, and the public mentality changed, which means that's everyone's idea, and everybody's like, well, that's the idea. Nobody thinks for themselves anymore.
I
You
like to
ever
say,
hated somebody without meeting them? And then to meet
oh
them
yeah,
and
I had
see
a boss.
They're really dope though.
I had a boss, and I almost got fired because of allowing myself to be dictated and basically manipulated by everyone's opinion of a manager. And they're like, oh, this manager, Robin, is this, and this, blah, blah, blah. She's going to do this, and this. And she came in and started doing that stuff. And I was like, I literally said something and almost got myself fired. And after I didn't get fired, it made me have a different outlook. And I got to know her one-on-one. And I was like, you're actually a really dope person. Like, you're not as bad as you're doing. She even started becoming more laid back in certain things she does. She just had to come in, establish herself, draw her line in the sand, which she did, and then from that point on, it like evolved from that. People still didn't like her, but I've always been the type of person, like, whenever I have a conflict with someone, there's a level of respect that I build with them. After that point, like, hey, like, okay, I was wrong, you were probably wrong, we didn't, and then we meet at the middle, and we come on a common ground. And I remember just allowing the mob mentality dictate my own opinion of someone, instead of, like, making my own opinion of her. And it's crazy because it's like, I always like to say that a lot of people's like, when the last time you had an original thought? He was like, I even catch myself, like, even way before this, I'm like, a lot of the information I would give out would just be regurgitated information. A lot of the personality traits would be like, oh, I talked to my old roommate and I love the way he thinks and how he talks and what the stuff he does, that I was catching myself just regurgitating his information and then almost the exact same way. Instead of, like, learning it myself. And actually, once I did learn it myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be a carbon copy of you. Like, I'm actually developing my own personality.
That is so many people right now.
Yes.
And the difference is you're able to see that. But, like, so many people will just regurgitate. And that's literally, like, your view on the world. If it's not regurgitated, you're a rare specimen.
Right? I'm never going to act like I know everything. But, like, this even study said, he's like, hey, if you want to be the smartest dude in the room, learn 10% of one thing. Learn 10% of whatever you're talking about. He's like, because 9 times out of 10, they know 0.
Literally, like, if you want to like, be knowledgeable on a subject, like, just look it up. Like, that will separate you from the public, like, so quickly because nobody looks anything up.
Yeah.
You hear something, just go do some research on it. You'd be surprised to find out what you know and what you don't know. And then maybe you'll have a little more grasp on the subject. But, like, just taking things for how you hear them is kind of dangerous. But that's what everyone does. Mob mentality. And it's what controls society, I would say.
Popularity.
Especially with, that's how our election works, is popularity vote, you know? Disagree or agree with popularity vote.
Yeah, it's a popularity vote.
It's what happens. And so you can win the mob over. You've got control.
Oh my gosh.
Last statements. What do we got?
You have to believe in the unknown because you never know. You just never know. You never know if your girl cheating on you.
Yeah.
You never know if your job's gonna keep you. You never know if you're gonna wake up in the morning.
Facts.
You gotta fucking believe to keep yourself sane. Believe in whatever. Believe in something. Have a belief system. A system. Not belief in shit that's gonna bring you down.
Yeah.
But belief in everything else that's gonna bring you up. That's gonna keep you sane. By really having that core belief. So I think the podcast was awesome. You said something great of bringing people together just to talk. It's only 3 people in here, but it's still, I mean, sometimes when it takes 3 people, 3 mindsets to change the world.
Oh, yeah.
Or to start a trend, and the whole high school gets on that trend.
Yeah.
Because 3 cool cats. So I think it's really, really cool that you said, you know, starting a podcast. That's really what it is. The world, radio, studios, it brings people together to create masterpieces for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you said about the high school because it's interesting. If you think about your high school, like, and you think about the groups, because everybody's got a group, right? There's like, oh, the jocks, the nerds, this, that, and that. High school is a direct representation of the groups that make up life. And everybody thinks about, like, oh, there's this, like, super famous person, or this Nobody. It's the same thing with high school. And everybody went to high school. And if you think of all the different people groups in high school, it's almost like you can really understand life if you think of it like, oh, that's how high school was. Because high school is just your first step until everybody starts regular life. And think about what groups you were in. Were you in the jock group? Were you in the nerd group? Were you in the theater group? And how did that like put you to where you were? It's like your first step to understanding what society is, what group you're a part of. I don't know. It's interesting how like public education can sort of push you towards whatever part of life you are in.
What group are we then?
I 100% was in the non-group. It was me and one other person. In high school, I had one really close friend, and we would just constantly make fun of everyone else. Because we're like, look at them in their groups. We are us, but they let their group control them. And I think that's funny because it's sort of like how I am now.
I was an isolationist, but a jock at the same time. So I was like, I played basketball, JV, and everything, but I didn't hang out with the basketball team.
Right.
I knew all of them, and I was like, oh, what's up? We do stuff, but I didn't spend time with them.
Your last statement for the
people
crowd, for the people, for the listeners.
For the rabbits in the foxhole.
What do they
give it to the rabbits in the
foxhole?
foxhole?
Your life is hard. It's not. 100%. Stop fucking complaining and start talking about all the things that make your life great. Because you think your life is hard, it's not. It's great. And you should start talking about that every day. When something's good, talk about that instead of what makes it hard and see how your life changes. Talk about, instead of being like, oh no, I ran out of milk. Talk about how you've got so much fucking food in the fridge anyway.
Talk about how your fucking $1,200 stimulus check, and you're still complaining about why it's not $2,000.
Right?
Look at what's
Literally.
good. It's free money.
Whoa,
Stop complaining.
Canada's been getting a check every month since they're getting a big check.
Stop complaining.
For you, Greg?
That's it.
Enjoy the mysteries of life, man. There's, like you said, like everyone was saying, like life is hard. Enjoy it. Take all those experiences. Keep moving forward. He was like, those are all learning experiences. No experience is a bad experience. They're just learning experience. So just enjoy the mysteries of life, man.
Like that.
This is a great episode. Thanks, Tajh, for joining.
Thank you.
Greg,
Yes.
as
I'll be
always,
here. I'm here.
this has been the Foxhole, episode 4.
Ooh.
We're going to record tomorrow for a new episode. But thanks, listeners, for tuning in. And
what keeps you sane?
what keeps
Maybe
you
put
sane?
something in the comments if you
Amen.
made it this far.
Amen. Amen.
You guys have a great night.
Yeah.
Belief.
Like